So I am going to start this video by saying that you belong and don't let anyone or yourself convince you otherwise. If you're new to my channel, hello, welcome. My name is Cameron and I like making all sorts of videos, but mainly I focus on studying, my lifestyle. I'd like to do some cooking videos and focusing mainly on my PhD. So I'm going to be talking about imposter syndrome today, and it's likely something that if you have found yourself onto this video, it's something that is bothering you as well. But before we get into it, I'd just like to say thank you for watching this video, and if you haven't already, then please consider subscribing because it is free and it really helps me understand what kind of content that my viewers like to watch. And it also helps the channel grow, so please consider subscribing if you haven't already. So imposter syndrome is something that happens to a lot of young academics, and indeed older academics, people that have been in their role for years. It is this feeling that everyone else knows what they're doing, but you don't. And also, most importantly, it's this feeling that other people are gonna find out that you are indeed a fraud, that you don't know what you're talking about, and that you're going to be exposed as a liar, an evil little demon. But don't worry, because you are meant to be there. And you'd be surprised at how many people actually feel this feeling as well. So the main sort of symptoms that people have of imposter syndrome is this feeling that you are there purely by luck. That you have a fear of being seen as a failure, that overworking is the only way that you can meet your expectations, that you need to downplay your accomplishments. And while I will be focusing on academia in this video, this is something that happens to everyone in relationships, in other jobs, at school, at home. It's something that is universal and it sucks. And really importantly, it's something that has been happening to me over the past couple months of starting my PhD. Now, I am starting it at Cambridge, which is fun and all, but it's also very, very scary. And it's something that has been really emphasised across all the talks that I've been to in the first few weeks of starting the PhD. And I was going through those first few weeks doing tasks or not knowing the answer to things, and soon my supervisors or anyone else in the team is going to see me for what I am, and that is a fraud. But I have been trying to remember that I am there on merit, and I've worked hard to get here, and I have to accept there are a number of things that aren't good about me so far as a researcher, but these things take time and I will get there. And I think the most important thing of this short video is outlining some of the key things that I've done to try and overcome imposter syndrome, and I can imagine I will have imposter syndrome throughout the entirety of the PhD and indeed through my life. I was speaking to my supervisors who have been working in academia for many, many, many years, and imposter syndrome is something that they experience all the time, so really nothing to worry about at all. And that sort of leads me to the first thing. In my life, I have always compared myself to others. I've always asked people what their grades were on a test compared to my own. When I would play video games, I'd compare myself to how good I was to other people. When I play football, I'd always compare myself to other people, and this is not a productive way to look at it, because you need to focus on your own intrinsic motivations and to focus on your own abilities. And I think that this is something that's really important at the start of research. There are going to be lots of very accomplished people in your field, and that is no different from what I'm experiencing at the minute. Some of the things that I've seen this team do and publish and create is extraordinary. And I keep thinking to myself, why haven't I done that yet? Because I'm 25 and I've just started a PhD. I don't have any published papers, but I have a couple of degrees. I have an undergraduate and a master's, and I've worked across a bunch of research projects so far in my career, but I haven't published anything yet, although I know my time will come soon. And compared to the probably hundreds of publications that my supervisors have combined, maybe even thousands, I know that I'm nowhere near where they are yet. And I've got a really supportive team that will help me get to where I want to be. So the first thing I do, stop comparing yourself to others. You will get there eventually, don't worry. The other thing that's really helped me so far is talking to others. Now, this could be speaking to your friends, your colleagues, your parents, but really the most important thing to do is speak to your supervisors. Funnily enough, they're human beings too, and they're likely to have gone through exactly the same thing as you're going through right now at some point in their career. Me and my supervisors had a PhD supervisor meeting a couple weeks ago, and it was just after I'd submitted the 4th version of the protocol that I've been working on, and it had lots of comments again, and it's very disheartening to have that happen again and again and again and feel like you failed. And I brought that up to my supervisors and I said, look, I feel quite disheartened today because I've submitted it for the 4th time, and I'm still failing and I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. And they gave me some really good feedback. We spoke about it at length. And they reassured me that even though I've just started the PhD, when they started their PhDs, they didn't do anything for about 6 months and they didn't feel like they did anything meaningful until a year later. I think there's this huge need for young researchers to prove themselves and to publish something as quickly as possible, regardless of quality, but these things take time. And it's really important to view it as a process rather than a delay. And I spoke to them about imposter syndrome as well, and I said how I feel like I'm just going to be found out as a fraud or someone that doesn't know anything. And it was actually quite reassuring because there wasn't the expectation that I know everything. And again, we spoke about these feelings, and it really helped me settle down and feel at ease in my own skin, and realizing that I am indeed a very young researcher who has a career ahead of them, but these things need to develop and take time. And one of the other things that I've sort of touched on before as well, and it's really important, is to take note of your accomplishments. Again, there is this need, I feel, that young researchers have to accomplish something as quickly as possible, to publish something, to do a talk at some conference or anything. And there will be likely moments throughout your academic career, your PhD life, that you feel like you haven't achieved anything and things are going along slowly, and imposter syndrome will again creep up in your life. And it's really important to be as ready as you can for those feelings. Because you might have tried talking to others, you might have stopped comparing yourself to others, but really you need to find that self-confidence from within. So one of the things that you can do is take notes of your accomplishments. So if you're able to complete a document, say something like a consent form or a participant information sheet, or you completed some administrative task for one of your supervisors, it could be anything, write it down. The idea is that when you have imposter syndrome come back in your mind, then you have this really tangible list of things that you have done over the past few years that are genuinely meaningful and that you took pride in. And then you can really connect with those feelings and try and blanket imposter syndrome as best you can. So if you're able to sort of separate these feelings from facts, have a list of your accomplishments, stop comparing yourself to others, and be able to talk openly and find the courage to do that with your supervisors, it can be so relieving and helpful to deal with imposter syndrome. And the final thing that I'd recommend is accepting that you are never going to be perfect. I'm very sorry. And that can really suck for you if you are a perfectionist, because you want to do everything absolutely perfectly every time. But having spoken to my supervisors who have had years and years and years in academia and lots of experience under their belts, they are nowhere near the finished article. Probably shouldn't say that because my supervisors will probably watch this video, because they have told me that. They know that they sometimes struggle. But I think they've gotten to where they are because they're able to deal with imposter syndrome and these feelings of negativity really well. And they're also able to express positive thoughts to me to help me feel reassured as well. And to feel that healthy sense of self-esteem and noteworthiness, it's really important to understand your strengths and weaknesses at any point. It's why in an interview, if you get asked what are your weaknesses, you have something to talk about. And recognizing that nobody is perfect and that mistakes are a part of life is so important for yourself and for your professional development. This can also help with your well-being as well. If you struggle from making mistakes and feeling failure, then being able to accept that perfectionism is impossible to actually achieve is important, and it will help you in the long run. So I really hope that this video has been somewhat helpful to you. Again, it's a very quick one, but it's just me sharing my experiences and how I've overcome feelings of imposter syndrome within the first few weeks of my PhD. Remember, if you're feeling these feelings as well, there's not one size fits all strategy. It's about finding what works for you. And remember, you were chosen for a reason. You went through the application process, you had your interview, and you were chosen because potential was seen in you. And you didn't trick anyone at all, because the people that are on the interview panel are smart and know what they're doing. So don't worry about it and take it easy. Remember, if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, because it really helps me understand what kind of content that my viewers like watching. And if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe, because it helps the channel grow so much. I hope you have a great day, and remember, you are where you're meant to be. Good luck.